हेलो एवरीवन, आप सभी को मेरी तरफ से प्यार भरा नमस्कार। आई एम एसडीएस सर एंड टुडे आई एम बैक अगेन विथ द सेशन ऑफ वोकेबुलरी बेस्ड ऑन द एडिटोरियल कॉलम ऑफ द हिंदू डेटेड 2 नवंबर। हाँ दोस्तों, बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग पैराग्राफ आए हैं आज के पेपर में और आज हम उसके कुछ डिफिकल्ट वर्ड्स डिस्कस करेंगे। फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ है द ट्रूथ अबाउट द इंडियन स्टोरी एंड दिस आर्टिकल talks about the economic growth of India, and in this there are some words which I have highlighted over here और हम इस words को discuss करेंगे जैसे polarizing, dismally, blazing, cluster, sluggish and so on. So इस article को हम discuss करेंगे इसके words and the second article related to द एयर पोल्यूशन एंड इसका टाइटल है द वीकेस्ट लिंक इन एयर पोल्यूशन एंड इसके अंदर इफ यू जस्ट रीड दिस पैराग्राफ जो आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू एनहांस योर रीडिंग स्किल, टू अंडरस्टैंड, टू एनहांस योर राइटिंग स्किल्स एंड सो ऑन, टू एनहांस योर वर्ड पावर। इसके लिए पैसेज आर्टिकल्स पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है एंड दिस इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टूल जिसको हम आपके सामने लेकर आए। एंड द सेकंड आर्टिकल जो है द वीकेस्ट लिंक इन एयर पोल्यूशन फाइट, इसके अंदर ऑल्सो यू विल कम अक्रॉस सम फेमिलियर और अनफेमिलियर वर्ड्स जैसे कि एम्बियंट, मैंडेट, एक्सप्लिसिट, स्क्यूड, टेनर। सो विल बी डिस्कसिंग ऑल दोज वर्ड्स इन डिटेल्स कि हाउ दिस वर्ड्स आर टू बी यूज, हाउ दिस वर्ड्स आर यूज, इसके एंटोनिम्स, इसके अपोजिट वर्ड्स क्या होते हैं एंड सो ऑन। सो दोस्तों, फ्रेंड्स, बी रेडी एंड गेट सेट और हम स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का वीडियो ट्यूटोरियल। सो स्टार्ट द वर्ड फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट आर्टिकल। हेडिंग जिसका है द ट्रूथ अबाउट द इंडियन स्टोरी। फ्रेंड्स, जब आप इस पैराग्राफ को ढंग से पढ़ोगे यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस पैराग्राफ इज जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अबाउट आवर कंट्री इंडिया। एंड व्हेन यू रीड दिस यू विल कम अक्रॉस फ्यू लाइन्स, मैंने उस लाइन्स को हाईलाइट की है एंड विल बी डूइंग दोज वर्ड विच आई हैव अंडरलाइन ओवर हियर। सो जब आप इस आर्टिकल को पढ़ोगे, ये आर्टिकल का ही सेंटेंस है, these are polarizing times and one hears some arguing that the Indian economy is doing dismally and others chanting that it is a blazing success. So when you read this you might get confused as to what are the meanings of these words polarizing, dismally and blazing. So हम उसकी मीनिंग पे चलते हैं and the meaning of the word polarizing ये एक verb के तौर पे यूज करता है and the meaning of this is divide people of opposite opinions into two separate groups. So now read this sentence. These are polarizing times and one hears some arguing that the Indian economy is doing dismally. So there are two set of groups and now they are arguing about a particular thing. So polarizing is divided. और इसका अगर opposite लेना चाहोगे, the opposite of this word polarizing is combined or decentralized. So this is the way these are divided views at times and one hears some arguing that the Indian economy is doing dismally. Now what do you mean by this term dismally? And dismally का meaning है cheerless, in a gloomy or a depressed way. So now if you just try to read the sentence, there are these divided opinions at times and one hears some arguing that the Indian economy is doing in a depressing way and others chanting that it is a blazing success. So there are two sets of opinions. One feel that the economy is doing dismally, that is बहुत बुरी तरह से कर रहा है, it is in a gloomy state, and the others are chanting, they are saying that it is a blazing success. और blazing का मतलब होता है outstanding. So now if you read this sentence कितना आसान हो गया है. There are two sets of opinions. One feel it is dismal, that it is gloomy, and the others feel that the growth rate is blazing, that is it is growing, it is blooming. और ये blazing का opposite होता है impassive, cool, dispassionate और unemotional. Yes, when you go through this article you will come across one more line which reads, this places India in the cluster of troubled West Asian nations such as Iran, Egypt and Syria. What do you mean by this term cluster? तो जब इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ की बात करी थी इसको कंपेयर किया था. सो इट जस्ट सेड दैट दिस प्लेसेस इंडिया इन द क्लस्टर ऑफ ट्रबल्ड वेस्ट एशियन नेशंस. तो वेस्ट एशियन नेशन की जो दिक्कत है उसमें इंडिया इज ऑल्सो क्लस्टर्ड एंड क्लस्टर्ड इज collected. So India is also collected in that group of the troubled nations. And the opposite of this word cluster is split, disperse or disband. चलते हैं with the next sentence. One more sentence will come across. Most of India's growth is occurring at the top end, with a few corporations raking in a disproportional share of profits, and underemployment is so high, it is likely that large segments of the population are actually witnessing negative growth. ये जो sentences है, I have taken as it is from the article of the editorial column of the Hindu. अब जब पढ़ोगे, you might feel what is the meaning of this word raking. So most of India's growth is occurring at the top end, with a few corporations raking in a disproportionate share of profit. So raking is to glance over rapidly or to gain rapidly. So इस सेंटेंस का मतलब क्या हुआ? जब इंडिया की ग्रोथ हो रही है, the corporations raking in a disproportionate share, जो शेयरिंग बेसिस है, that is growing rapidly in a disproportionate way. कोई स्टैंडर्ड वे में नहीं है, इट इज रेकिंग अप इन अ डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेट वे एंड दिस थिंग इज स्प्रेडिंग और रैपिडली इंक्रीजिंग. एंड द एंटोनिम, द अपोजिट ऑफ द वर्ड रेकिंग इज डिस्पर्स, बैनिश और ब्रेकअप. चलते हैं विथ वन मोर लाइन. वन मोर सेंटेंस विल कम अक्रॉस. आफ्टर स्लगिश ग्रोथ फॉर अबाउट 4 decades after independence, India's growth picked up in the early years. After sluggish growth. Now what is this sluggish growth? Sluggish means it is used as an adjective, slow to respond. तो initially India की जो growth थी, it was responding very very slowly, काफ़ी धीरे तरीके से वो respond कर रही थी, but later on उसने pick up किया, gear में आ गई and then started racing ahead. So sluggish means how to respond slowly or economically inactive. So initially the growth was economically inactive, but then it took up the pace. और इसके opposite रहेंगे, antonyms will be speeding, rushing, meteoric, a nice word, and whirling. One more sentence, और अच्छा एक interesting sentence. What makes the current situation dire is not that India grew slower than the majority of nations during the COVID-19. Those were troubled times and nations were often understandably caught on the wrong foot. Here also जब आप पढ़ोगे, one word is there, dire, and the other idiomatic phrase which is used over here, which we will discuss today, is caught on the wrong foot. Now, what is the meaning of the word dire? Dire is used as an adjective and it is a warning of disaster. खतरे की चेतावनी, that is known as disaster. So now if you read this, what makes the current situation dire is not that India grew slower than a majority of nations. उसकी बात नहीं, तो खतरे की जो घंटी बजी थी, it was not that India grew slower. वो टॉपिक के बारे में बात कर रहा है, ग्रोथ के बारे में बात कर रहा है, तो बोलते जो खतरा था वो इसलिए नहीं हुआ था that India grew slower than the majority of nations, कि भारत का जो प्रोग्रेस था it was slower than the nation, but then it was for some other reasons. And then one more sentence is there, or idiomatic phrase is there, to be precise, caught on the wrong foot. And nations were often understandably caught on the wrong foot. And what is the meaning of this wrong foot? To be surprised by something that happens quickly. जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं हक्का बक्का रह जाना, चौंक जाना, अचंभित हो जाना. These are the Indian meaning, in Hindi meanings for this word, caught on the wrong foot. And nations were often understandably हक्का बक्के रह गए थे ग्रोथ को देखकर, इंडिया की ग्रोथ को देखकर. So this is something about the article which talks about the Indian growth from the editorial column of the Hindu. Yes. और कुछ अच्छे वर्ड्स इसके लिए, बोल्ड ओवर, शेल शॉक्ड, benumbed. These are some synonyms of this idiomatic phrase caught on the wrong foot. Moving on to one more sentence. As the level of the trust erodes in a society, investment tends to fall. So as the level of the trust erodes, जब भरोसा erode हो जाता है, the investment falls. तो erode का मतलब analyze कर सकते हो, जब भरोसा, जब trust बिखर जाता है, जब trust कम हो जाता है. So the meaning of the word erode is to diminish or to destroy by degrees. So when the level of trust diminishes, then investment also tends to fall. Investments कम आएंगे बाहर से जब लोगों का भरोसा कम हो जाएगा. This is what means in their particular paragraph based on the growth of economy in the editorial column of the Hindu. One more line, in turn the falling investments rate is adversely impacting growth and hurting job creation. So in turn the falling investment of rate is adversely impacting. What is adversely meaning? Adverse conditions is in a bad or an harmful way. So जो investment जो कम आ रहा है ये बुरी तरह से growth को affect कर रहा है, Indian economy को affect कर रहा है and so. And the opposites, the antonyms of the word adversely, fortunately, prudentially and opportunely. I hope the things are very clear with you. हाँ दोस्तों समझ में आ रहा है ना आज? And we have tried to make this article very easier for you with the help of these words. और आगे पढ़ोगे आप? And the words which I am, the sentences which I am putting up are in a sequence. ये sequential way में रखा है, बीच में आपको लेकिन लाइन से ही आपको ये sentences आपको नजर आएंगे जब आप उस editorial column को पढ़ेंगे. So when you read this, the columns are in an hierarchy. Finally, even though a divided society is easier to rule, we have to pull back from this and create an ethos for inclusion and trust. So what do you mean by this term ethos? Ethos is a noun and ethos is a set of ideas and attitudes associated with a particular group or society. So you have to come up with different ideas, sets of ideas to pull back from this thing and gather the trust और भरोसा जीतने के लिए we'll have to put up some sets of ideas and attitudes. Moving ahead, so these were a few words from the first article based on the growth of economy, and now we will take few words from the second article which talks about the air pollution fight, titled the weakest link in air pollution fight. And इससे हम कुछ words लेते हैं. Yes, you come across this sentence. India's frontline environmental regulators, the State Pollution Control Board (SPCBs) and the Pollution Control Committee in the Union Territories, इनका रूल, yes, तो वहाँ से कंटिन्यू होता है सेंटेंस. Their primary role, किसका primary role? These two groups. Their primary role is to regulate emission from point sources such as industries and power plants that contribute substantially to ambient, this is the word we will highlight, ambient air pollution in urban and rural areas. So these groups, इनका role क्या है? To regulate. Regulate means to control. We know the word regulate. Regulate is to control. To control what? Sources such as industries and power plants that contribute substantially to ambient air pollution. And ambient का meaning होता है existing or present on all sides. So a group का role क्या है? To contribute towards seeing what are the reasons that the air pollution is increasing from both, that is urban and the rural areas. So ambient is present. And see a nice word, encompassing. Encompassing is surrounding, घिरा हुआ, घेरा लेना. So ये reason find out करेंगे. What are the reasons कि pollution is spreading in urban as well as the rural areas? It is surrounded by both. And the opposite for this is non-contiguous or non-adjacent. These are the antonyms, opposite words for the word ambient. So अगर ध्यान से पढ़ो, try to work out on the words which you are doing today. It will help you a lot in your exams. Whether it is you are appearing or preparing for SSC, you are preparing for railway exams, you are preparing for bank exams, या आप prepare कर रहे हो UPSC के लिए. All these things will help you a lot, friends. If you move ahead in the same paragraph, same article, you will come across one more thing. Under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, the SPCB mandate was expanded to include air quality management. Now, what do you mean by this term mandate? Mandate का मतलब होता है an authoritative command, delegation, accreditation or empowerment. So, if you read this sentence now, under the Air Prevention and Control Act pollution, the SPCB mandate was expanded. So जो भी powers थे वो powers को expand कर दिया गया to include air quality management. So this air quality management का power था, these rights also were given to the authorities. This is what this line means. Some more words from this. As you move on, you will come across this line also. Given the scale and causes of air pollution in India, multidisciplinary expertise is needed to tackle it. Tackle is सामना करना, to face it. There must also be an explicit focus on health while designing air pollution policy. तो air pollution policy को design कर रहे हो तो there should be some explicit focus. And what is the meaning of this word explicit? Explicit जो adjective के तौर पे use करता है, explicit means expressed without vagueness. That is to express clearly. कोई शंका ना होवे, कोई संदेह ना होवे, that is explicit, clear, unambiguous, specific or definite. So a clear focus should be laid on health. And the next sentence, the lack of expertise and skewed representation of stakeholders on the boards can only be a hindrance to effective policy making. Hindrance is obstacle, रुकावट, yes, इस मतलब hindrance is रुकावट, obstacle. And the meaning of this word skewed. What is skewed? Skewed is used as an adjective that is distorted, distorted from true value of symmetrical form or deviating. So the lack of expertise and skewed representation of stakeholders on the boards can only be a hindrance. So skewed which portrays in a negative way. And इसका opposite रहेंगे even, level or strict. So skewed is something which is portrayed in a distorted way. One more word, the SPCP leadership, the chairperson and the member secretary do not enjoy a long, stable and full-time tenure. Okay, this group of members, they do not enjoy a long, stable and full-time tenure. What is tenure? Tenure is the period, holding a term for or a position. That is the term. It is used as a noun. Noun के तौर पे use होता है and इसके opposites रहेंगे subordination और submissiveness. So tenure is that para, the time. कितने समय तक उस पद पर है, that time is known as tenure. And one more sentence from the same article. This has significant implications on pollution regulation as vital functions such as monitoring industrial compliance, initiating enforcement actions in case of violations, and standard setting are often not prioritized. So what do you mean by this term compliance? Compliance is a noun. It is the way, means is act of obeying an order. किसी के आज्ञा का पालन करना. Obedience is compliance. To comply, to agree with. Adherence or conformity. ये इसके अलग meanings है. So functions such as monitoring industrial compliance, that is they should obey the rules, they should follow the rules which are set. And the opposite of the word compliance, defiance, विरोध या विद्रोह, that is rebellion, dissent or non-compliance. So these are a few meanings and antonyms of the word compliance. And let's move on to the last word which will come across a bit difficult, a bit vague word you might feel. The institutional picture we paint is rather bleak. This is not black, friends, it is bleak. And what do you mean by the term bleak? Bleak is used as an adjective and it means lacking in warmth, life or kindness, discouraging, depression, bleak, cheerless, gloomy, sad. These are some more synonyms. So the institutional picture we paint is rather bleak. So it is not cheerful. वो थोड़ा सा धूमिल, जिसको हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं, is the meaning of this word bleak, that is cheerless. And the opposite, the intents of these words are bright, cheerful, appealing and sympathetic. So friends, go through the editorial column and this video will help you a lot. improve and enhance your reading skills, your thinking skills and your vocabulary skills also. So, for more detail and videos full of knowledge which will be helpful to you in any of the exams you are preparing for, subscribe our channel, like our channel and keep watching. Till then, enjoy learning and thank you all. फिर मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में जल्द ही. Till then, bye bye all of you.